on levels and planes that so many of us are not thinking. And that's the key. The key here, if for you who are listening, for you who are listening, learning to ask questions is the key to communication. So many of us think that communication is about what I'm saying out of my mouth. But guess what? What I'm saying out of my mouth wouldn't have happened if Tom didn't artfully ask the questions. Let that sit for a moment. With your staff, it's the same thing. So many of us are used to telling, talking, instead of asking, asking, gaining understanding, gaining understanding of where someone is, and then helping them cross a bridge to where they need to go. That is the key to the future, both interpersonally and with technology and AI.
Welcome to the Eye of Power podcast. I'm your host, Tom Dardick. But this podcast is not about me. It's about you and your power. It's time to claim yours. Welcome to the Eye of Power podcast. Today, it's my great pleasure to welcome Atiba de Souza to this program. Atiba is the Superman of content, and he's been in SEO and digital marketing really since the beginning in 1996, as far as it relates to the web, and learned SEO from the inside out, and shares some fantastic insights that are just really basic things that whenever we do anything, they're things that we should keep in mind. So get ready for a great ride with Atiba de Souza. Thank you, Atiba, very much for joining me today. Appreciate your time. And
Thank you, Tom.
the Superman of content is something that I'm very anxious to talk to. Seems like
Well,
it seems like no matter who we are in
mhm.
today's business world, we are in the content production business.
Yes.
And so what you offer to people as an expert, somebody who can help get over that threshold, my first questions are around the idea of how does somebody who is a little skittish or unsure about how they might make a video message, even to somebody they know, even at a small scale, and then build it from there. What are the things that you would like people to know to encourage them to move forward?
Yeah, that's a really great question to start us off with. And it's one where I'm going to be completely honest with you. Okay. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And so you're feeling that it's not easy, and it's okay, right? And it seems like for people and people like me that it seems easy. Listen, yesterday I needed to do 3 videos and I only got through one. I can only get up the nerve to do one. Guess what? I go through the same stuff you do. Okay. And that's one of the things that I love to share with people is the understanding that the same wind is blowing on all of us. So I hope that that helps you not feel less special, but
Let's move.
makes you realize your feelings aren't unique. Okay. And you're not the weird one. You're not the one who's out there all by yourself. And oh, we all are going through a very, very similar struggle. So
I want to
here's how
stay
we
there
do.
for
Yeah,
Atiba. I want to stay there just
go.
for a second,
Sure.
because in the Eye of Power podcast, our community, it's about seeing our power, seeing our agency, seeing our ability to move
Yes.
forward. And what you're talking about is when something's confusing, daunting, it seems like we can't do it. We've got this sort of tape in our mind that's saying that's not for me in whatever way, and therefore we're condemning. Really, we're condemning ourselves, saying we don't can't use this tool or
Yes.
or whatever. So I think that's something that's very an important thing for us to focus on, that this is another example of the kinds of things that could be a barrier to people, that isn't that they might be holding themselves back without even maybe even thinking about it or knowing about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom, without question. But here's a part of the reality, though,
Yeah.
right? Part of the reality is, and especially when we look at the eye of power and when we're looking at the things that we are actually powerful in,
Yeah.
okay, is very often you see someone, you may see them on social media, you may see them on a stage, you may hear them on TV or radio, and it really resonates with you, right? Even to the point, even to the point of even sometimes saying, man, I wish I could be like that.
Mm.
Okay. So now I'm not talking about sometimes someone gets up and they make a great point. You're like, oh, that's a great point. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when your inner being connects and says, wow, that presence that you have is powerful. And I wish I had that presence, not the message, but the presence. Okay. That's really,
Yeah.
really important. And here's why it's important. It's important because what's actually going on is you are saying to yourself, hey, we have those qualities. We have those qualities. When you see that in someone else,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
really you saying to yourself, I have that within inside of me. It just hasn't come out yet. And so in that moment when we say, well, that's them, this is me, I can't get there, we're denying ourselves the opportunity to be our true selves,
Mm.
right? And that, my friend Tom, that is the key to being on video. That is the key to creating content, is the understanding that your true self needs to connect with someone else's true self.
So yeah, I love that, Atiba. That's fantastic, because it really is about getting out of our own way. Because when we're not our true self, what are we being?
Exactly.
What is it? It's
Exactly.
these ideals, or these things, these expectations, these
Hmm.
defense mechanisms, these personas,
Hmm.
these techniques, these things, whatever they might be, these things that we're trying on for size because we think that we're trying to produce this specific effect, impress this person, or not disappoint this other person, or cover up this thing I don't like about myself, or whatever it might be, rather than training ourselves to let that go and just find what's real, and
Yeah,
then express that. That's true no matter where we go, whether we're sharing via video or having a conversation with literally anybody. uh,
absolutely.
it's a great thing for us all to nourish along our journeys. But as it relates to producing content, what
Yeah.
I tend to hear you say is that uh, people can tell if you're not perhaps there, right? Because that's that presence piece. If you're going to feel
Yeah,
that presence if you're connected, and if you're not, maybe that's where things might not be so smooth or effective, or what.
absolutely. One of the interesting things that we do a lot in my company is personality assessments when we're hiring people. And we like to look at what people's self persona is and what they portray, right? And see how
Yeah.
different they are, right? Because the self will always come out. It's only a matter of time. And you
True.
see, and that's the same thing when we're creating content here is if I come on here and I am someone who I am not, at some point in time, somebody in the audience, whether they may see the act that I put on now and think, oh wow, that act was great, and not recognize it was an act, but that was great. And then they call me and then they reach out to me and it's a completely different
Mm,
person. Now we've broken trust.
right.
Now we've broken trust. And once you break trust, you're done.
So you're pointing towards the necessity of congruence, of being of being that genuine person in the various circumstances we find ourselves. I'm wondering about the person who came to mind as you were talking about that, Atiba, for me is somebody like a Robin Williams who, he's
Hmm.
successful for about as successful as a performer can possibly get. But also about as sad a person. I mean, is ending, taking your own life. I mean, you have to get to a pretty desperate place there, and perhaps it's related to this dynamic we're talking about, where I feel like the person that everybody in the world is responding to is not actually me, and therefore, who am I, and what's my value, and that. Am I onto something there?
Yeah, yeah. Now, I obviously none of us can speak directly to Robin and where he
Yeah.
actually was and what he was going through, but we talk about and it's a thing. There is imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, there are two types of imposter syndrome. There's imposter syndrome where you're existing in a place where you feel like you don't belong, okay, because you're devaluing your actual worth. Okay, so give you an example. You are an accomplished whatever in whatever field and have been doing it for umpteen number of years, but you enter a situation and you feel like, oh, I'm not that great because there are others around who've done it longer than me, but you've done it differently and you bring your own piece to it. So, yes, you have tons of value and you feel imposter syndrome. There's the other side of imposter syndrome where you've been living a lie,
Hmm.
right? You've been selling that you are what you're not, and you're constantly running to keep up so that nobody can figure out that you're not.
Yeah, that's a tough place to be right there.
It is. It is. And that's the one where there's lots of psychological sides to that, right? That really affect how someone views truly themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, just I don't know if that's where Robin Williams was or not, but it's a
Either.
tough,
Me
tough,
either.
tough
It's just
place.
to me, it's a very dramatic case of
It
somebody who
is.
on paper was, had everything, and in inside felt like he had nothing, and maybe less than nothing. So, it just seems that's one that hits me as a dramatic example. So, but taking it down to somebody who's just perhaps they have a business of some kind
Mhm.
and they know they should be sending more uh, video content out to their both their current constituents of their client base and perhaps past customers or future customers. And they know that they don't have to be sold on the idea that video is the future or that it's
Mhm.
performs better or that you're able to connect more, like in the way we're talking about soul to soul connection in this way. So they don't have to be sold on that. They just have to be sold on how they might do it.
Mhm.
Um, what's your guidance and coaching? What would you tell somebody in that situation, Atiba?
Yeah. So there are two sides. Number one, on the practical. When someone walks into your office, when you get on a Zoom call with someone, you have a conversation with them. And at this point of your career in life, you're probably pretty adept at having conversations about what you do. And we're proud of you for that. It's a great thing. Video is no different. You see, so often we feel like, oh, I'm going to turn the camera on and now I'm talking to the world. No, you're talking to one
Ah,
person. There's only one person that you're talking to. I, to this day, still imagine that one person on the other side of the camera and talk to them and have a conversation directly with them. So it's always important in any type of marketing, any type of content, to know who your ideal customer is. Who is that person that you're talking to? Who's that person that makes you get up and jump out of bed to serve them every day because you're just excited about the outcomes that your business brings for them and changes in their world? Who is that person? That's the other person sitting on the other side of the camera. And that's who you're talking to. Now you can say, oh, but what? Okay, I'm talking to them, but what am I talking to them about? It's no different than when they call you. They ask you a question, you answer it. And so, what do you create in your content? You answer questions. Answer questions that people ask you. That's it. It really is that difficult. So, that's one side. Here's the other
Okay.
side. The other side is you might know all of that. You might say, I know what to talk about, blah, 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 blah. I know all this stuff, and you still won't do it. Guess what? You're just plain selfish.
Oh,
Let me just say it to you bluntly, you're selfish. You're being selfish. You know full well you have a gift. You know full well you have the answer that people are looking for, and you're not willing to share it. I know it might sound harsh, but that is the definition of selfishness. So stop being
I,
selfish.
I love it. Some tough love, but that really is it, right? I mean, because what are you putting? You're putting your squeamishness, your whatever it is, over the value of what you can give to somebody else.
Yeah,
And yeah, and I mean, this is probably some sort of a, just like most things, there's a spectrum, and in some areas we
of
do it, in
course.
other areas we don't do it. So probably all of us can get somewhat better somewhere along our spectrum in this area or that area to pay attention to. But that's a very basic thing that we will all benefit by really making that a priority to work on, I'd say.
Yes.
Absolutely. So there's also with what you do for people, Atiba, it seems like you also help people get over the more mundane thing, like the technical things, or
Hmm.
where they don't know how to maybe sustain an effort
Hmm.
or create a strategy. Um, can you talk a little bit about what you do for people as it relates to that aspect of things?
Absolutely. Once you get to that place where you decided to stop being selfish, right? And you're ready to create the content. You're ready to really get in front of the camera. People then start to face the other side of it, right? Like you said, some of the technical stuff, right? And I tell people all the time, screw the technical.
Yeah.
You want to get technical? Get your phone. A cell phone is all you need. Okay. I This literally happened last week. I was talking with one of my clients, and she was just like, I just don't understand. Like, I'm trying to create these videos, and I'm trying to do how people do like the movement, and I can't keep my hand steady, and it's always jumping up and down. I'm like, yeah, you know what the answer is? You take your elbow and you anchor it to your chest and you hold the video. Guess what? If you do this, you will stop jumping up and down. It's really that simple. Y'all don't overthink it. You don't need big fancy equipment. Okay. Matter of fact, I'm in my studio right now, and in total, this is about $600 worth of equipment.
Wow.
And all I do is create content. You don't need to spend a ton of money. You don't need big fancy equipment. Your phone is all you need. That's it. Okay. So that takes care on the technical side. Now, in terms of creating the video, editing the video, there are great apps on your phone that you can use, like CapCut is great for editing video on your phone. Then, in terms of actually publishing content, here's what I'm going to tell you. Every algorithm loves consistency. So, if you can do every Tuesday, do every Tuesday, right? If you can do 4 times a week, do 4 times a week, but be consistent. It's better to do less consistently than more sporadically.
Mm. That's good advice. Like, for instance, for this podcast, it comes out every Tuesday. So
Hmm.
now I am thinking of adding to that and possibly adding another day, but I'll keep the Tuesdays for sure, and possibly add on top of that. Would you
Perfect.
would you say adding one more day and keeping on that, and being consistent with another day during the week would be an important consideration for me, Atiba?
Yes, absolutely. Again, it's all about what you can do consistently.
And sustain.
Yes, and sustain. Okay. You know, it's the algorithms are kind of like your credit score.
Mm.
Okay. You know full well you pay your bills every month on time, but it takes 1 month, that month where your credit card hit the expiration date and the bill didn't get paid, right? And all of a sudden it shows up on your credit report and your score, phew.
Mm.
The algorithms are that finicky as well.
Wow,
Okay.
okay.
So, yes, stay consistent. In your case, when you say adding another day, like it's like adding a new credit card onto your credit report. Well,
Mm.
if you're going to add it on, make sure you set up auto pay and pay it every single month, right? Same thing here. If you're going to add on Thursday, make sure that you know, okay, I've got enough content that we can be consistent and persistent with Thursdays. Great.
Okay. All right. That's important. Thank you for that. The
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's take it to your personal story a little bit while we have some
Mhm.
time to go there, Atiba. So I understand from what little bit of research you've been over 25 years in the field of SEO and digital marketing.
Yes.
Uh, how did you get in that? What do you love about it? What have you learned? Give us a little bit of your journey through
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
absolutely. So, yeah, I started in 1996. Um, Two friends and I started what was called a computer consulting business back in 1996, because that's all you called it back then, right?
Right.
Um, and truthfully, it was an accidental entry into SEO, because in 1996, you know, the web was still, well, barely anything.
Pretty new. Yeah.
Um, right. And we were um, searching and finding and learning stuff back on the text-based web and using browsers in Netscape.
Hmm.
If you remember Netscape, for
I
those
do.
of you
I
old
do.
enough, right? Um, and well, guess what? Bookmarks in browsers suck in 2024, and they were way worse in 1996. Okay. And so we had a problem because we were learning and finding all of this great stuff. And then we had this mass between the three of us of bookmarks, and then you couldn't find anything. And so we set out to say, well, what if we created something where we could search all of our bookmarks and all of the stuff that we find? And so we wrote a search engine in 1996.
Hmm.
And so that was my start in SEO. So I learned SEO from the inside out. um, Done SEO for private, done search and SEO stuff for the government over the years. And it was about 2006 or so when I started to look at where the industry was going and realizing that, you know, it was more than just SEO. It was SEO and story.
Hmm.
Nothing holds human attention like story.
Yep.
And in order to create good content, content must have story. Otherwise, it won't hold human attention, right? And we were in a situation where Google wanted stuff that they considered good quality content that would hold human attention. Well, if I wrote about a topic in a story form that was relevant to a particular audience, Google seemed to like that and the audiences seem to read it. So, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, hello.
Right? Winner, winner, chicken dinner, if you will.
You got your chocolate and my peanut butter.
Okay. And we put all of that together. And then about 2017 or so, it got to the place where the term SEO started becoming commoditized, which was frustrating.
Yeah.
Okay, because we were a boutique agency in what we did, and it's hard to compete against commodities in that sense. Um, And that's when we started realizing that video was really the future. It wasn't even written anymore. Then the pandemic hit.
Mm.
And when the pandemic hit, a lot of stuff changed, and it gave us the opportunity to refocus the company on video and video first and creating quality video content through story, right? So same principles to help videos rank and get the correct eyeballs. Because again, it's the same thing, whether you're writing written content or video, You're doing it for one person. Right now, you're listening to us, and it's just you. We're talking to just you. So that's a bit of my story there in terms
I
of
love that. So now going forward, we've got a kind of a new world. You pointed towards the pandemic and how people are far more accustomed to communicating in the way you and I are right now than they were
Mhm.
4 years ago. And the I don't see that changing, right? This is
No,
and
no.
what I'm loving about that is, you and I have just met, you know, we have synergy, now we know somebody that we would not have known beforehand. Times all the times I have chances to talk to people, I'm absolutely loving that aspect of doing a podcast and just meeting people from all over the world. And it just seems
Yes.
like the world is small compared to what it used to be. And I can help anywhere. I can connect with anybody anywhere in a meaningful way. And so there's,
Yep.
to me, a tremendous amount of good in this cup. Uh, Not that it's ever going to replace the the energy of being in person with people. That's another different thing, but it does augment and it does give us leverage. So I'm building this all up in the question to you, Atiba, which is, what do you see for the market, for your company, for the future of this sort of
Yeah.
conversation coming down
Yeah.
the road in the next few years? What are, if you had your crystal ball, what are some of the things that you'd like people to be aware of, to pay attention to?
It's a really great question. And I want to go back to something you said a little bit earlier in the lead up to the question. Um, you talked about talking to people all across the world, and you said that the world is getting smaller. I actually don't think it's getting smaller. I
No,
actually think it's getting more connected.
more connected. Yeah, that's a
I
better way.
think I think the worldview is actually getting bigger.
Mm,
I think our ability to see and understand is actually growing, right? Because now you really can get perspectives from everywhere. We have staff now around the globe. It changes your understanding of humanity.
hmm
It changes your understanding of communication, right? So I give you a perfect example of this. I am someone who prides myself on the ability to communicate. Having staff around the globe challenges daily my ability to communicate because just the cultural differences alone, much less the background and understanding differences mashed on top of that and whirled together, creates this soup of, okay, I've got to be way more thoughtful in the way I communicate. And I think that that's where we're going in the future. I think where we're going in the future, we have this convergence of things that are going on. And I've been saying this really for a year and a month and a half, which is with AI specifically, dumb people are going to get dumber and smart people are going to get smarter,
Mm.
right? And it's going to be in the hands of the creators, the creative ones who are going to take us forward because they're going to be able to communicate to each other, to us, and to AI in ways that propel society. Propel society because they're going to ask questions on levels and planes that so many of us are not thinking. And that's the key. The key here, if for you who are listening, for you who are listening, learning to ask questions is the key to communication. So many of us think that communication is about what I'm saying out of my mouth. But guess what? What I'm saying out of my mouth wouldn't have happened if Tom didn't artfully ask the questions. Let that sit for a moment. With your staff, it's the same thing. So many of us are used to telling, talking, instead of asking, asking, gaining understanding, gaining understanding of where someone is, and then helping them cross a bridge to where they need to go. That is the key to the future, both interpersonally and with technology and AI.
I don't even have anything to add to that. That is it right there. I mean, mic drop out. That's a fantastic little. I'm going to take that clip, that your section that you just shared there. I'm going to take that as a separate thing and use that. That's fantastic.
Please do.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm smiling so much because um, that little thing that you pointed out to me where I was saying the world is smaller. No, it's more connected. Just, I mean, it seems like it's a little semantic thing, but no, little ideas like that, just because it's not smaller, you're right. The possibilities are bigger. And so I had that little word in there that if you substitute more connected, opens things up, right?
Yes.
Whereas smaller seems to close it back down so I can be a little bit more isolated and not be so intimidated by how wide world, so
Yeah.
it maybe serves a purpose, but just little slight little things like that make all the difference in our framing. And that's another reason why what you said about remaining in the question. I mean, it's funny as you work in a field, as you get there, you almost forget what you learned in the beginning, and it's sort of easy to assume that people know all this stuff, or that you forget what you actually learned and
Yeah.
forgot. And so we need to be in a very humble place where we're always just asking the questions of each other, right? That's where all the power is, because then we're two souls, like you pointed out, you started off with the truth, right? With us being our authentic self, true self, and being there. It's that humility of just exposing ourselves to the world and being there and wanting that actually, whatever it is, whether I like the message or not, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, that's what I want. And when we can
Yeah.
get to that place, that's when we can communicate, and it doesn't matter what the cultural, time, language, focus differences might be. It's still just two human souls exploring what value we can create together.
Yes, yes. And there's even greater there too, if I could just
Sure,
for a
please,
moment. Because
please.
here's the greater that exists when you exist there in that reality, is that human soul on the other side. Because naturally, naturally, misunderstandings are going to happen. It's human. But when you're approaching with genuine question and gaining understanding, right? As misunderstandings happen, what ends up happening with this other person on the other side is you have a bedrock and foundation to come back to for the relationship, that that person knows how much you care
Mm.
to hear. And so they approach the misunderstanding from a totally different perspective and feeling of, okay, we ain't on the same page. We may not be feeling each other right now, but I know at the baseline, we're together. So let's go back and let's rebuild together. Changes communication.
Being in the question, it means wanting to actually know what the other person thinks and perceives. Just wanting to know that is a sign of respect, because you're
Yes.
saying you're giving them respect. I'm going to start crying because this is the beauty of life. They count. That person
Yes.
is valuable. That person matters. And
Yes.
just those little things, if you're just in the habit of doing that to everybody, it doesn't matter who they are, what they can do for you, what they can't do for you. Nothing matters that they, other than they're another human being, another person. That
Yes.
if you give them the gift of being seen and valued in just that small way that we're pointing to, that's one of the greatest gifts you can give people.
I'm going to share this here with you too, Tom,
Please.
in this moment, because as we talk about the world becoming more connected, and we talk about and being able to grow and expand more, the the part that's unsaid there is so many of us live where we can only see the ends of our noses. And that's as far out as we go, right? Some of us might get lucky to see the end of the brim of our hats, right? But that's about as far out as we go. And that's problematic. It's problematic. Let me give you a quick story. Let me give you a really quick story. I'm going to trace this story. So I just got invited to speak in Greece.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yes, I'm super excited. I've never been to
Awesome.
Greece, and we're
Awesome.
working out all the details, and God willing, we'll all come together.
Will it be in
But
May or June?
unfortunately, no.
Okay. Because I'm going to be
But
there in June. So I was like, oh, man.
oh, that'd have been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but so I get this invitation. Now I want you to trace this backwards. Okay. I get this invitation from someone who invited me to speak to their mastermind um, last week. Okay. She sent me the invitation in December, said, hey, could you fill in? Could you speak to my mastermind in January? I said, sure. I went in and I did an hour with her mastermind, teaching them about video and marketing. Okay. Let's go back a little bit further. Before that, there were some people that I knew that she should connect with. And so I've made text introductions, right? Hey, so and so, meet so and so, y'all have fun. Okay. Go back a little bit before that. She and I spent about an hour and a half on a Zoom call together because she was really just getting, she's been super successful in corporate, but was really just starting out in business and said, okay, great, let's spend some time together. And, she had some questions and I just wanted to help her answer her questions. Okay. Go back a little bit further. About 6 weeks before that, I met her a few hours after she had gotten off stage and done a presentation. Okay. And a lot of people tried to approach her, and I could tell she was annoyed by the way people were approaching her. And I wasn't, and I ended up happening later that day to stand next to her and turn, she was there, and she said, hello. And in that moment, instead of being pretentious or anything else, I was just me. So I was just being me. We just had a conversation. We connected. She said, "Hey, let's stay in touch." She gave me a big hug. We did, which happened to be 6 weeks before. Now, go back a little bit before that. A little bit before that, I was invited down to this event to speak on the stage, and because they said, "Hey, we're gonna have 300 doctors in the room. Come on down and speak to my 300 doctors." I got there. There were 12 people in the room.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Now, I could have been upset and frustrated. There were only 12 people here, right? And missed the opportunity to have a conversation with her. Now, I had the conversation with her just out of the kindness and with nothing of intent. She
Yeah.
asked to follow up, and then she set an appointment. When we talked for an hour, hour and a half, there was nothing for me to gain there. You see, so often we only see the end of our noses, and we would see, well, there aren't enough people in this room, and why do I want to talk to you? You're just starting out in business. What can you do for me? And that's all we see instead of showing up genuinely and just actually being what the moment needs.
That's where life
Be
is.
the superhero that you are in this moment. Doesn't mean you need to be somebody else's superhero in terms of being something else. Be the superhero that only you can be in this moment. Show up as that. Show up as that in the moment.
I love it. Atiba, thank you so much. I very much appreciate your perspective, your wisdom, your
You're welcome.
stories. Just fantastic, and it's all around messaging communication through modern media. But it doesn't matter what the uh, media happens to be, the medium of exchange. It's really about just being our authentic self, being seeing the authentic self of somebody else, respecting that, and treating that person as the person that matters in that moment. And
Yes.
and whether there's 12 or 300, or whether it's always one. It's one person that you're connecting with in that moment. That's fantastic.
Yes. Yes.
Atiba, thank you
Indeed.
so much.
No, thank you,
Very much
Tom.
appreciate it. Well, thank you, Atiba, for being on the show today. So much appreciated our discussion today. I just want to underscore a few of the highlights that you were able to share with us today. The idea of talking to one person, the camera's one person. Now it went a step further when Atiba said it's the ideal client. So you're talking to your they call it an avatar. It's that person that is the embodiment of a marriage made in heaven between what you do and the customers you can serve. Talk directly to that person. But even if you're in a public speaking situation, really just it's good advice. Just talk to a person at a time, not the whole time, because if you're focusing on one person, they get a little nervous. Seems like you're like, why am I focusing just on me? Why is this person just talking to me? You don't want to get that far, but you want each sort of sentence or each thought to be directed towards a person. So I think that's a really good thing to remember as we communicate. um, his he really put some challenges down there. He said, if you're not willing to share, you're being selfish. And, it might be something like, well, I'm afraid of this, or I don't want to do that, or I don't have enough time for this. And it's, well, is that really the truth? And even if no matter how you're feeling about it, another question you might ask yourself is, so what? Is it valuable or not? Will people benefit from it or not? And then, do you really want to be the person that took their whatever change you could have made for that person and you just took it away from them because it was just a little bit uncomfortable for you to do one thing? So I think that's an important thing that we should pay attention to. He looked at the technical side of things too, where the algorithms, every algorithm loves consistency. So the idea of getting into a habit, the habits are so powerful. They either help us or they hurt us. And as it relates to producing content, uh, get into the habit, get into the groove. The other thing Atiba said that I really treasured is, AI will make dumb people dumber and smart people smarter. So there is going to be this sort of rift coming from these tools, and you kind of want to be on the smart people smarter side than falling into the traps of what algorithms can do for us and automations can do for us, and just they can make it easier, right? We can get softer, we can get less creative, we can get less energetic as it relates to building relationships in the world and being connected in a human way, among other. I mean, it could happen that way. We get more dependent on things instead of being our own agent. And so I think that's very much in concert in what we talk about in the Eye of Power, being, building our own agency, our own power in this world to do things. And the other big thing that Atiba focused on there, I thought was really good, was the idea about asking questions and being in the question with people. And it's not what you're saying, it's really what you're inspiring. And that's what good communication is, and that's what good partnership is. It's what we're inspiring in each other. And so things aren't just as transactional and as surface as what it meets the eye. It's much more going on energetically. And so paying attention to that energy and where it's coming from and why is a very good bit of advice. So again, thank you, Atiba, for being my guest today. I thought it was a great discussion and a lot of wisdom there. So thanks again.
This has been the Eye of Power podcast with Tom Dardick. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd also like to thank my brother, Scott Dardick, for the music and his music production. If you'd like to reach me, simply email Tom at dardickcommunications.com.